Now that we've gotten an overview of some of the very basic pieces of syntax in Go, it's time to start on our cards project in earnest. In this video, I want to first talk about how we might approach the cards project if we were working with a classic object-oriented type language, like say Python or Ruby or Java. We'll then figure out how to draw some of that object-oriented programming approach over to Go. And so to be really clear, Go is not an object-oriented programming language. So there's no idea of classes inside of Go. So let's take a look at how we would approach the cards project with something like Python or Ruby, and then do a quick overview on how we're going to actually approach it using Go. All right, so this is how we might make this whole cards program with object-oriented programming. We might decide to make something called like a deck class. A deck class is a sort of blueprint that has some number of properties and methods attached to it that describe what an instance or a copy of a deck looks like. So we could use that deck class to then create a deck instance. A deck instance might have a property called cards, which would be maybe an array of strings. We could then make use of functions attached to the deck instance called things like print or shuffle or save to file to manipulate that list of cards that are attached to the deck instance. And so in the Go world, things are going to be pretty significantly different. So let's talk about how we're going to approach this with Go. Okay, so as you know, with Go, we have some of these very basic data types available to us. We spoke about the very core data types like strings and integers and floats, but we also spoke about like arrays and slices as well, which are technically also data types inside of Go. In order to bring about this idea of a deck inside of our the idea of a deck inside of our Go program, you and I are going to define a new type inside of Go. We're going to define this type as being called a deck type. And a deck type is essentially going to be a slice of strings. And so in that slice of strings, we will have our list of playing cards, each of which will be a string, just like we've seen so far. Now, to attach some customized functionality or some functions to work with this custom deck type that we put together, we are going to create some functions that we refer to as functions with a receiver. And so don't worry too much about exactly what this receiver thing is right now. For right now, all I really want you to think about or kind of understand is that we are going to take an existing type in the language, which is a slice, and we are going to kind of extend its functionality. We are going to add some more properties to it. We're going to add some functions that make use of this new type that we're going to create. And so what we're going to go through here is going to be a very common pattern that we're going to see in a lot of different Go programs throughout this course. Okay, now last thing I want to tell you as we start to go into this making use of types and all this stuff, I want to think about our project structure a little bit. So at this point, we only have that main.go file, but I think that maybe we should create a separate file called like deck.go that describes exactly what a deck is and how it works. And then later on, as we start working on this application as well, I think maybe we should figure out how testing works. And so we might also have like a deck_test file as well. So for right now, let's create this deck.go file to house all the code that describes exactly what a deck is and how it behaves. So I'm going to flip back over to my code editor. And inside this cards directory, I'm going to make a new file called deck.go. Now remember, every single file inside of a package, and this is still a file inside of our main package, must always declare the package name at the top. And so the first line of code that I can guarantee we're going to write inside of here will be package main. Okay, so I think before we start writing some actual code inside of here, we should probably take a quick pause so this lecture doesn't run on too long. So let's take a quick break, and we're going to come back and start putting together some code inside of our deck.go file to describe this new deck type that we're going to create. So I'll see you in just a minute.